Revelation 13 and 18, New International Version. This calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. That number is 666. Welcome to another edition of Pop of Genius. That's Pop of Genius on urban politics. And today's subject is about the beasts have arrived. Are you ready? Now, this is a take on within the news. If you've seen it, it is about this new startup company that has engineered something called a robotic centaur. And it's a California company that's making a centaur style robot designed for dangerous environments such as wildfires, rubble searches, and confined spaces. And some of those abilities are great things, don't get me wrong. However, it is very strange that they decided to model it into the fashion of a centaur. We're going to talk about that and how that relates to current political events that are going on. Now, why a centaur? I like this little article someone created. The humanoid upper body lets operators use tools built for people, while four legs provide stability on rough terrain. Cameras inside the horns track every limb and tool, providing backup if the robot's joint sensors fail. Now, the reason why I wanted to make something in regards to that new engineering company in California creating the Centaur robot is because I said, okay, that looks so familiar. Like, I've seen this image in so many things besides just Centaur. But then I thought about a current trending ongoing topic to where the centaur could also be connected activities that are not only connected to the underworld, but it's also connected to the White House. And that is Jeffrey Epstein's island. So on his island, he had some very weird things. He had all types of statues that were just materials, like this rug, Islamic faith. This rug or this cloth, they make these every year. He had a piece of this. He had the cloth. And this is something that they use, Jeffrey Epstein used, they believe, possibly according to the release of some of those files, because of course those files have not been completely released. Some of these items within his sexual rituals with a lot of those young people on those islands against their will. And one of the things I noticed is that within that temple that he had on the island, which looked like it could have been a mosque or it could have been a synagogue, it's just very, and it also had like a Greek type of aesthetics to it. But inside of it, he had some mattresses that were stacked to the side, along with a very large, what looked like a bookcase, but it wasn't. It was a shelf that looked like it could have been used to place some type of ceremonial deities on there. And if you look in the ceiling of that temple on his island, he had many centaurs on the ceilings. Now, if you saw a video I did a couple of months ago talking about this temple, I talked a little bit about the centaur and how the centaur is connected to SA, a lot of SA, and of course is mythological, but is also connected to physical truth, biblical truth. And now currently our trending current times, they're now manufacturing a prototype of something that has been foretold in the last days of the Bible. So these centaurs reminded me so much of that robotic centaur that the California company created. And then I remembered, like, wow, that's right. Jeffrey Epstein not only had centaurs painted on that ceiling in his temple, but he also had temple centaurs of statues around his complex on that island. And let's see. So the hybrid creatures in Revelation 9. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how this connects to the Bible, okay? And how it's going to connect to our politics, current times, and the future. The locust is described as looking like horses prepared for battle, having human faces, women's hair, lion's teeth, iron breastplates, and scorpions like tails. That's in Revelations 9, 7 through 10. The army of horsemen. So there's these trumpets that are going to go off during the last days. And I really believe that we are in like the last days. Like we are getting ready to be on the precipice of the final days, because there's too many things that have unfolded. And if you go back into just your Holy Bible, and if you find the verse in where chapter 2 of Acts, and Peter, the Apostle Peter, he talks about this is the beginning of the last days. That was 2,000 years ago. Here we are now in the cusp of a 2,000 year, right? This is the second millennial. So since Jesus Christ has been resurrected, if you believe in Jesus Christ, it all aligns to our current times. These things that are happening even in our technology and engineering, computers and AI. Human faces, women's hair, lion's teeth, iron breastplate, and scorpion-like tails. That's Revelation 7 through 10. The army of the horsemen, sixth trumpet, described as having horses whose heads were like the heads of lions, breathing fire, smoke, and brimstone, with serpent-like tails. Now, this is what it would look like. This is what looks very similar to a centaur, right? This looks very similar to the very first scripture that I read at the beginning of this video, when I talked about the beast, and the number of the beast was 666. This is not new. This is something that is just it's been an evolution. It's like it's a spiritual evolution that has been occurring. Jeffrey Epstein's cases coming to the forefront, it's not something that's new for, like, per se myself, someone who's very intuitive into the spiritual realm and the political, and in current times. It's not new to me, but it's new to a lot of people who have never really been into the Bible, or they don't believe in God or any God. They don't have any type of in touch sensibility with something outside of themselves. And people were they were flabbergasted when they saw the things that people are doing, and not only everyday folks, but people who are in power, people who have political power, financial power, okay, that are making the decisions over our lives every day. And as we progress in this very short video, you're going to see what I'm talking about. But I talked about how centaurs were considered to be sexually deviant in mythological stories. They were warlike creatures. Guess who else is a centaur? Baphomet. Although Baphomet is also like a mythological creature, however, he represents many faiths of the satanic realm. I don't think that is by happenstance. Do you see the hoof feet? Yeah, the hoof legs. And I want to bring into mind Jared Kushner and also Elon Musk. So I spent a lot of time on Jared Kushner. I do not think he's the Antichrist, but I do think he is the precursor to him. I also want to bring into this conversation Elon Musk. Elon Musk, he is the richest man on the planet. Don't you think that's strange? I'm not saying that he's not intelligent, but he is not... He hires people to do the work for him. He is not someone that is like a Nikola Tesla. He's not that brilliant. Okay, you know, he hangs around the White House begging for funding to blow up rockets over our oceans, and a lot of that money has gone into marketing. A lot of that is propaganda. Even him being appointed to administrate over Doge, which has completely annihilated many Americans that were great workers. He has completely annihilated many of our American workers from the federal government. And he is something that I would consider to also be not on the level of Jared, but right up under him. Okay? We've been molded, appointed, and anointed by the dark side. Elon Musk, from his racism, even from the first day of Trump's second inauguration when he did the Heil Hitler, it just, the upside down cross to this costume that he had, and look what he has on the front of it. He has the Baphomet, the beast, and his mother, her costume, it replicated the beast. She was a female beast, Mae Musk. And this is a very interesting picture. So that lady who's taking the picture here with Mae Musk, she is a part of the Rothschild family. And you know, if you know, you know when it comes to the Rothschild family, okay? And they are one of the 13 that are up there at the very top, has aligned itself to bring on the beast. And they are right there underneath the Vatican. It's very interesting to pay attention to this picture. This was a museum in South Africa where Mae Musk and a daughter of the Rothschild family took a picture at this museum, especially in front of this Baphomet. How do I know it's a Baphomet? Because it's a horned beast, transgendered, with high male energy, adorned with female breast, and it has horns, and also too it would have hoofed feet. What else could be classified as centaurians? Cherubims. Biblical description of cherubims. Unlike popular modern image of chubby winged human babies or cupids which derived later from the Renaissance art. Scriptural cherubim are powerful, complex celestial beings. The prophet Ezekiel describes their distinct features. They have 4 faces. Each of them have a face of a human, a lion, an ox, calf, and an eagle. Okay, listen now. It has the face of a human. On one side of it, on the other side of it is a face of an eagle. On another side of it, it has the face of an ox or a calf. Lucifer was a cherubim. He was a fallen cherubim. He had jewels encrusted and an organ encrusted in his chest area. And he was a cherubim. Ezekiel 28 describes Lucifer as covered in 9 precious gems filled with fire, perfect in beauty. King James Bible says that the scripture describes him as this: Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of God. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. What look like? It has eyes. It has 6 wings, 2 on top, 2 in the middle, 2 at the bottom. And it has eyes all over its arms, all over the wings. The legs are also covered. But guess who else? What else they have? They have hooved legs. Looks very much like a centurion, doesn't it? Why is that important? That their legs are straight and their feet feature hooves like a calf's sole that shine like polished bronze. Guess who else has hooves? A lot of the Anunnaki, which I believe are a part of the fallen angels. I believe that it's a part of the fallen cherubims that fell, and that 2/3 of angels that were removed from heaven, and they came down and intermixed not only with humans, but I also believe they intermixed with animals. There are too many archaeological finds where the Anunnaki has a half head of a man, they have wings, and they have like a lion's body. Well, isn't that what is described to be a cherubim? It says each cherubim has a face of a human, a lion, a calf, an eagle. And many of these Anunnaki, they have found that these beings have depicted themselves as eagles, as half man, half oxen or calf. You see their legs at the bottom with feathers, with wings. These are fallen angels. The Anunnaki are nothing but a hybrid. As you see these past depictions of themselves on of the replica of the cherubims. But also too, I saw something else that made it all connect. And we have so much more to talk about. Cones that they have, right? I believe that these cones are a representation of knowledge. Now, they call them like the pineal cones. And I looked up the cones. And I connected this pineal cone to, I looked it up and it says, yes, parts of pine cones, specifically the nutrient-rich pine nuts hidden inside them, have been safely eaten by humans and animals for thousands of years. And it's also considered like a third eye back in those times. And this is what pine cone seeds look like. They're edible. Then I thought of the Garden of Eden. What was it that the serpent had to offer? He had something in his hand to offer mankind. Something that would make them be able to tap into their pineal gland, right? To make them just as smart as God. And to me, again, I feel as if this is a true connection between the two. That the serpent is nothing more than the fallen cherub, Satan, Lucifer. And this is connected to the Anunnaki and the Anunnaki are connected to the centaurs, and the centaurs that are believed to be mythological, just like the Baphomet, really are not. The cherubims were guarding Eden after they were thrown out. God ordered the cherubims at the gate to close them. I will quickly say something about these handbags that have been found all over the world connected to the Anunnaki. Now that we have talked about this, they are connected to the heavenly realms of beings that at one time had access to knowledge. However, these bags represent the fallen state. At one time, they had the ability, when they were in their true state in the heavenly realms, God gives angels weapons, he gives them staffs, he gives them the ability to even initiate blessings. He gives them the power to provide provisions, to give directions. This is the fallen state with these bags and these watches that they have on their wrist. This is where you see them trying to conjure up wisdom, but they no longer have that ability anymore like the regular angels, because they are in a fallen state. These bags represent a fallen state. Anything that is a fallen state, it will mislead you. It is the opposite of God. And so these bags of what they deem as knowledge is really fallen knowledge, which is why it led both Adam and Eve to be dismissed from the garden. The beast is here. The beast has always been here, but the beast has corrupted what God has created. God created animals for the benefit of man, and he corrupted the beast. He hybrid the beast with humans. He hybrid the beast with humans. He also hybrid the humans with the fish in the sea, and that's where you get Poseidon. Poseidon is a type of centaur. Even when you see these ancient Dagon gods, like this half man, half fish, it is a replica of what you're seeing in the Vatican today with the Catholicism. They model their same priestly hoods after the hybrid of the fallen angel and the creature of the earth, and its ungodly connection to each other, ungodly relationship that goes against the nature of God. It is now in the Vatican, and that is why Satan is going to try to go through the Vatican. He's going to try to establish his throne here on earth through the Vatican and also through the third temple, because he wants to do everything to negate what God has established here on earth, because this is his kingdom, and it goes against everything that is to keep us living forever. So continue to read, not only just being so deep into politics about Republican versus Democrat, and liberals and independent, all that's very important, but also to keep in mind that these things are starting to unveil. And just like that California company that has now unveiled the robotic centaur, that's just a foretelling. That is a foretelling. That goes in connection to everything that's been going on in ancient times. And that's why I really believe why the Lord even brought the animals onto the ark 2 by 2, because the corruption of the animals, the bestiality that had been occurring for hundreds of years with the fall of Satan. Let me know what you think. Please like, share, and subscribe. And that even goes along with these new Noahide laws. You see what I'm saying? There's a connection with all of this. All of this that you see with these demonic beings that they're referring to as aliens, UAPs. All of this stuff is connected. But I definitely want to know what you think in the comment section. I hope you have a great week. And thank you so much for supporting the channel. There's some new changes coming to this channel very soon. Be on the lookout for it.